Welcome back, everyone. It is time to jump into our second match of the day, and every match today and this weekend matters, considering this is the final weekend of regular play before we get to the mid-season showdown. And the results of that previous game have now made this game that much more interesting. With Cloud9 losing against CLG, Dignitas and TSM now both have the ability to catch Cloud9 at that #1 spot. And for TSM in particular, they're currently 1-1 with C9 in the standings, which means even if Cloud9 wins both their remaining games, it's in TSM's hands to, at minimum, potentially get a tiebreaker for first. If they win all 3 of their games this weekend, that's exactly what's on the menu. And this is a squad that has really been improving since what we first saw of them in the lock-in tournament all those weeks ago.
Yeah, I mean, it's massive. Coming into last week, it looked like C9 had basically already locked first, right? Now, 3 straight losses means it's really anyone's game up there at the top. You know, TSM could grab it. Dignitas is up there at 10 wins. They have the ability to both potentially tie Cloud9 today. TSM is coming in hot off of a huge comeback win against Cloud9 last week that we are now watching these highlights from, where I mean, Cloud9 was out to one of the biggest advantages in the early game I've ever seen in a professional game, and TSM came back, ran him over, lost, got a penta, Sword Art was on fire. It was really an impressive game from them, a very, very nice comeback to see. And to take a little bit of a look at the strength of the schedule, see what these guys have coming up here. You know, EG obviously is trying to stay in playoff spots, and TSM is trying to now get first, right? You know, that's kind of what they're battling for here. And it's honestly a really tough schedule for EG when you're looking down the stretch here. TSM today, TL tomorrow, and CLG, you want to say, oh, well, that's the easy win. But they're 4-3 in their last 7. They're actually doing pretty darn well. And they just crushed C9 here today. So honestly, all 3 of those games are looking tough for EG, which makes it a pretty difficult path for them to essentially stay in playoffs. And on the other side, you look over at TSM, Immortals and Golden Guardians both seem like, hey, these are teams that are not in playoffs right now. Immortals is on the cusp. Golden Guardians is in 10th. So these are wins that you would expect them to be able to pick up on most weeks. Of course, they still have to be able to execute and get those wins, but it doesn't seem like an impossible 3-0 by any means. You know, I wouldn't be shocked if TSM could get the 3-0 this weekend.
TSM, as I already said, remember, it's in their hands. This is a squad that if they win all 3 in a row, doesn't matter if Cloud9 win the next 2, they then guarantee themselves a tiebreaker against Cloud9, and if they win that, they finish this regular season play first, going into the mid-season showdown. And again, going back to what we saw out of this roster and how many no refunds memes we were getting spammed with in the chat as people were not having the faith in the decisions that TSM was going with, I am seriously impressed with how quickly this roster came together and flipped the switch to the on position. Because these guys are getting a lot of work done. They've had some really high moments. Even that game last week against Cloud9, where it looked like Spica was totally... Watching that was painful early on. I was like, man, I want to type FF go next for this guy. This is the kind of jungle start that tilts you for a week. But he came back, the mental of steel, and they end up winning the game. It was incredible.
And I think Sword Art absolutely popped off on the Nautilus, right? You know, we saw Cloud9 counterpicked him, brought out the Morgana. He had an incredible game despite that. But EG coming in here today, we'll see what they can get done. They've had an incredible weekend, really weak in amateur. You know, a lot of their amateur teams are absolutely popping off. So it's been a good week for EG overall. We'll see if that continues into the LCS as the bans are coming through. Olaf Udyr still off the table here. We'll see if they want to take away Hecarim potentially from Svenskeren, as that has been a pretty big pick for him. And I would expect if TSM don't ban it, that EG would probably be pretty happy to grab it. But it's actually going to be Kai'Sa. So one of the most popular marksmen taken off the table there. But with Svenskeren's Hecarim available, you do expect them to be willing to actually first pick this. I think Hecarim is so incredibly strong. This is a pick that he's gone to, a number of times throughout the split. People are feeling like the tank build is actually even stronger than the previous build that people were doing with Conqueror Divine Sunder instead of
Chem Tank is busted.
Chem Tank, yeah, it's incredibly strong. You also just get more damage by moving fast on Hecarim, so it turns out it's actually helping you offensively as well. We'll see where they want to go from here. Rel is available, but there are the nerfs. I think that Rel would be a good grab here, but it's actually going to be Lilia. So not really prioritizing it that highly, because of course they could have taken Lilia third if they want, knowing that the opposing team already has grabbed their jungle. So
Right.
this is instead saying, I would rather see more of your draft and get an answer than I would just take a power pick, right? But
Okay.
you know, with Rel being available, I wouldn't be shocked at all to see EG grab the Rel, you know, and grab that kind of cavalry combo here of Hecarim and Rel, which we just saw Cloud9 lose with, but I still maintain that that is probably one of the strongest jungle support duos, if not the strongest in the game right now.
Well, Hecarim with Xayah right next to him is what we're seeing on the Evil Geniuses composition so far. There's the Rel hover. Just like you, I will be surprised in no way, shape, or form to see this locked in. Giving that champion away like that can often feel a little bit punishing if she's able to pop off. We know how effective she is as a playmaker. TSM look to be deciding on their own support now. They're saying, all right, we gave you the Rel. I'm expecting them to have some sort of a plan for this because they had to have known in giving that away and allowing that to go
Probably
for another phase of
Alistar.
the draft. There was a high chance that Evil Geniuses would take it, and the response is Alistar.
Yeah, Alistar people are pretty happy about as an answer. You know, just the ability to actually headbutt Rel away on those combos to try to disengage a lot of what Rel wants to do. People do feel that that is pretty effective, but I would still say it's nearly impossible to stop a Flash RW in a team fight, and that is more what I'm worried about and less being worried about the actual laning. Either way, will be pretty interesting here. TSM, of course, could flex that Tristana mid. It could be bot. So they do have the options there. I will say that Rel, while it's still always going to be strong, and Xayah can actually follow up with the feathers and actually get the roots off of that, they have two very heavy divers. Normally this is paired with the Kai'Sa, but because the Kai'Sa is banned out, it's a lot harder for Xayah to follow up on a really deep dive than it is for the Kai'Sa, who can just ult immediately to that backline. So they may have to play it a little bit differently. I still think that you're going to want some sort of dive buddy to pair alongside that, whether it is, you know, a Jizuke special, something aggressive in the mid lane like the Echo, whether it is, you know, an Aurelia or Camille or something else. But I don't think that you want the Hecarim and Rel really diving deep on their own. So they're going to want to pair something with that. And I think that is why we are seeing the Shen again banned out here. It works incredibly well for impact. And it's also such a strong pairing with these divers.
Shen, Ryze, Orianna all banned away. What is our last ban of this draft going to be? The Jace. So keeping Huni off of some powerful carry potential up there in that top lane. Now TSM still have to draft their top laner and either a marksman or a mid laner because of that Trist flex potential that you were already talking about. We'll see who they want to leave that last counter pick for, being on red side. What's it going to be, TSM? What will we see here as this fourth pick in the draft, really getting the maximum value out of the timer, and they'll give Power of Evil his victor.
Makes a lot of sense. I mean, with Orianna banned away, you know, Syndra is up, so they could have gone that direction as well. Azir is pretty dead with the patch. I don't think we're going to see Azir at all anymore. You know, those nerfs have pretty much destroyed him as far as solo queue goes. So, yeah, that's how I feel too. It's not a bad thing. Get him out of there.
Not a bad thing.
Victor coming through. The Echo would be exciting. You know, this is a matchup that a lot of people like into Syndra. I do think it's probably a little bit harder to pull off against Victor. I'm less familiar with this matchup, if I'm going to be honest. But it's the dive buddy that you need alongside Hecarim, right? It is something that can work with that. Of course, they're now looking for a top laner. You could go something tanky here. The Nara is banned out. Renekton is banned out, so a lot of the popular ones there for him aren't available. Gragas is still up, but we haven't seen if people are going to be playing that in Pro just yet with the nerfs coming through. And it will be the blind Aatrox. So this is interesting.
Okay.
You know, if TSM want to go aggressive, Jax actually got buffed on this patch, and I think Jax is actually incredibly good in this matchup. Can survive, I think, in the side lane against a lot of these champions. I would be excited to see something like that. You also can go something a bit more boring, like a tank, if you just want to have frontline, because you have really strong front to back with the Victor and the Tristana. So I think this is fine to just kind of round out the composition. But I would question a little bit then, you know, why not just save your mid for last? If you want to go Scion, I think you can just go Scion blind into basically everything, and it's fine. And maybe Power of Evil would have preferred a different matchup into the Echo. So I think that there might have been a bit of a misorder there, but potentially they were considering something like a Jace, or potentially they were considering, excuse me, that was banned out, but some other sort of side lane pick that they wanted to see the full EG draft from before they locked in the Scion.
Well, Evil Geniuses in particular, the man that I'm going to be watching in this series is Svenskeren, because I think last week he had a couple of real head-scratcher type of moments. There were a couple of different plays that didn't work out too well, overcommitting to fights in a river at level 3, some similar mistakes later on in the game in some of their other matches. And Svenskeren will need to step it up here for Evil Geniuses, because we spent extra time in the intro talking about TSM because of Cloud9's loss and how this means they can still take first. Evil Geniuses is 1 game ahead of Immortals right now, currently sitting in 6th. And Evil Geniuses, because of that schedule that you mentioned, you know, they have to play against Team Liquid after this. They're going to have to also play against a CLG that is no longer just a punching bag for everybody else in the league. Evil Geniuses must be careful if they want to hold on to this spot.
And that's going to be very, very important for them, right? This is an organization that did invest pretty heavily in some big names, you know, picking up Impact in the offseason. Kind of got overshadowed, I think, by, you know, Perks and Sword Art and Alfari maybe, but it's one of those things that in most off seasons, this would have been one of the biggest signings, right? So EG is still swinging for the fences here. They have been a team that has been willing to invest in their short time back in the LCS, and they want to be battling up at the top. You know, they were clear about that, and they haven't had the results to back that up just yet. But making playoffs feels like, you know, the bare minimum for them. So we'll see if they're going to be able to pull that off here. And my eyes always are going to be drawn towards, you know, Svenskeren, as you're talking about, but also Jizuke. I think especially on the Echo, this is one of those champions that you're not playing Orianna, right? You're not playing Victor. You're not playing one of these champions that can just sit back 100 miles away, wave clear, and you know, have a pretty safe, effective team fight. You've kind of got to be playing from an advantage, because diving in on the Echo when you're down an item, when you're down a couple levels, you just don't really do anything, and you can die pretty much instantaneously. But Echo from ahead can be so strong. And Huni going to be spotting out the start here, so goes for the invade, gets the ward. Lily will be starting Raptors, so full knowledge now for Spica, and we'll see what he wants to do with it.
It's always sketchy if you're up against an enemy top lane Scion and you don't start your top side jungle buff. It's very easy for Scion to just int and steal it. He just dies to the buff, lets his body kill it, and goes back to lane. It's so easy to do that, so I like the fact that Evil Geniuses is starting off on the top half of the map, making sure that Huni can't get up to any of those cheap
I will say, it can go tragic. I have a friend who's a Scion main, does that almost every game. Sometimes you do that, you have to TP back to lane after, and then you can just get ganked immediately, and now you have no TP, and it's pretty cursed, but not going to be the start for this game. I like the invade to get the info there. And Jizuke just trying to shove pretty heavily here, but is going to take a fair bit of return damage. And Power of Evil is playing Phase Rush, so, you know, normally when Echo goes in and procs that Phase Drive passive, he can kind of just zip right out. But if Power of Evil can proc his Phase Rush alongside that, there is potential to chase down the Echo and deal damage on the return of the trade.
In here, mid lane, we can see Jizuke just going nice and aggro on Power of Evil. Exactly what you want to see on Jizuke's Echo, man. Always trying to make some moves.
But he is getting low, and Power of Evil can hold the wave now. So he's actually going to force out his TP here, very likely. Jizuke got too low, and they don't know where the Lilia is, so he has to base. And the wave was actually pulled to the side and frozen. Impact, though, nice trade here on Huni.
Oh, Huni down to 200 HP, having to walk that one off. Impact doing a good job controlling this lane early. And speaking of early laning, Jizuke, having lost all the HP he did, shoving out these waves and trying to go aggro on Power of Evil. He'll take a very early first back. It ends up getting him a Doran's Ring and a control ward, and now he's right back in the lane here, having used that TP already at level 4.
And this is such a fun thing about watching Jizuke. You know, whether you think he's one of the best or not, he is so exciting to watch because he plays the lane so aggressively. He will always tax your resources. He's going to push. He's going to force you to trade with spells constantly. He's going to try to get you and that's just kind of how he likes to play. And he also builds around that. This guy, more than almost anyone else, gets a late mythic item, and it's not because he's not farming well. It's because he'll almost every single game go into, like, you know, a Dark Seal plus a Doran's plus a Corrupting, or a Tier plus a Doran's plus a Corrupting. He builds for lane, he builds to shove, he builds to tax your resources and your mental, and he's very good at doing it. So it does make those laning phases, I think, really entertaining to watch.
All right, Jizuke. We'll keep an eye on him as the game moves forward, but checking up elsewhere, overall, we've got a slight gold lead for the side of Evil Geniuses. And in terms of the farm, you can see very small advantages in every single lane in the current state of things for the Evil Geniuses side. Down here in bottom lane, Ignar and Deathly are doing just fine against Lost and Sword Art. And despite the fact that we've got two of those engage, melee, playmaker type of supports, Azael, we're not seeing the same level of bloodiness in the bottom lane that we saw the previous time around. Potions still available on 3 out of 4 of the players down there.
Yeah, the trades have not been as scrappy. Generally, when you're playing Tristana in bot, you know, my thought process is if you're going even, you're winning in most matchups. It is a champion that can be pretty vulnerable in those early levels, so I think TSM is going to be happy as long as they can farm evenly alongside this bottom lane down here. Impact posturing aggressively. Huni is low, and Jizuke's already roamed up here. Let's see it.
Oh, the flash away for Huni to stay alive. Just bonking him over the head with the hammer, and he forces both Evil Geniuses players back after they take turret damage. Huni does a really good job outplaying that one, but Evil Geniuses is not yet done. They're saying you did it once, do it again here, Mr. Sion. It's first blood over to Impact, and he flashes away to stay alive.
That was an aggressive dive there. If that doesn't work, it could go so bad. But they had the confidence to do it. It does cost them both their flashes, though, and Huni has teleport. So honestly, all things considered, it's not as bad as it could be for him, unless they can now punish again. But one of the things that makes Sion so strong as a laner is how difficult it is to punish him, not only because of how tanky he is, but he has teleport, and now he's 6. So even if you push him out of lane, you can just ult back to lane. As I guess we are probably paused here, pulling out of game. We'll let you guys know something when we know it.
I was not expecting that.
True.
I was leaning forward, looking at my monitor very closely, and then I'm like, wait a second, that's my forehead on the screen. We will get back into the game here in a moment, but until then, we have to consider the fact that before the feed cut, it looked like despite the fact that Huni was back in the lane thanks to his teleport, so he didn't lose a lot of tempo, he was then losing a trade again. So he's back to low HP, he's back to sitting underneath the turret, and this sort of just feels like Sion life here for this lane.
Yeah, and I mean, that's why they picked it, right? They pick him something that he can be okay on, even if you're not going to have a fun time being weak side as a tank. It's not that big of a deal because as long as you're getting farm, as long as the game's not snowballing completely out of control through your lane, you are going to be valuable. You get so much flat HP from the W passive. You know, that Soul Furnace, I do believe it's called. All the bonus health you're getting from that, you are going to be able to create a lot of space for your carries in the team fight, and that's why they drafted him. So, you know, he's done fine thus far. He did get killed off once, but taxing the resources, getting both those flashes out is pretty important for them. But this is something that you also really like to see from Jizuke, right? Like a lot of his best games are on these early roams where he's playing the Rise or he's playing the Echo and he's playing these champions. He's getting out to the side lanes early. He's involved in plays. He's the one dictating the pace of the game where he feels most comfortable. So already I think that is spelling some good things for EG because as you had pointed out, their lanes were going well. They've now gotten the first blood under their belt and we'll see where they can take us from here.
I've read an update that it's going to be a couple of minutes here, so hopefully not a terribly long pause and we can jump back into the game here ASAP. But you can see we're not that far in so far. Picks and bans on your screen right now, sort of just taking a look at everything. Some pretty powerful team fighting tools are available for both of these squads. I don't really get the same feeling that I got from the last draft, Azael, where it felt like CLG needed to have an advantage because just together as a 5-man unit, their champions didn't work to the same degree their opponents did. Both of these squads have a lot of power in those team fights.
Yeah, I agree. You know, they're not played out in the same way, but, you know, Echo can be very effective in the team fights. It's just you have to be coming from multiple angles, right? When you're playing Echo and Aatrox versus a Sion and Victor, you don't just walk at each other and win the fight, right? You have to come from multiple angles. It's got to be about the flanks. It's got to be about those multi-pronged engages where you're getting into the back line. But if you can pull that off, it can be very effective. And a little update here. It was a visual bug which has now been resolved. It is all fixed, so we are back in game, and everything is looking a-okay for the pros. So hopefully, not going to be any more issues going forward.
No more problems. Back on Summoner's Rift, Evil Geniuses with an 800 gold lead, 600 of which came from the first blood plus assist underneath the Tier 1 turret. For those who might have just now joined us. Now with Svenskeren stealing away some of the camps here on the top side, we're seeing a question mark ping from Sven as he's saying, all right, Huni's just chilling back here. He's waiting. He's being super patient. And Huni marches back to the lane with that Bomby Cinder in hand. Sword Art going for a play onto Deftly. Just gets the headbutt pulverized and then Lost jumps right back out. Doesn't want to do anything more with that trade.
Just try to get a little bit of damage down. Allow them to push that lane in. You can see that TSM is mostly even focusing their vision on protecting their bot side. The 2 pink wards in the river. Nothing up on that top side. It's going to be the island life for Huni. He's just kind of on his own trying to survive up there. But they do want to protect the Tristana from any potential roams coming from mid, and that's why they've committed more vision towards that bottom side. Svenskeren now heading down towards his bottom side, has gotten a pretty quick level 6, is a bit ahead as far as the farm does go. But Spica as well is level 6 and grabbed a dragon for TSM, so pretty comfortable early game, you have to say, for both teams.
Man, when you say island life, you make me think of margaritas and sunshine and
that's what top laners do
bonfire
up
on the
there.
beach and stuff. No, Hooney's not living that kind of island life. He's getting his butt kicked having to hang out by this dirty old turret all day. This is the worst sort of island
I mean,
life.
it could be a bad island, right? It might be a good, maybe you show up to the island, you're expecting a 5-star resort, but it's just like a tsunami and you're sleeping on the beach, you don't even have a tent. That's not that relaxing.
No, that is not a good time at all. We'll check back in on him here in a little bit. Right now, his opponent's already about 3 waves ahead. Down in the bottom lane, it's level 6 for both the AD carries. Support's not quite at that mark just yet, but you can see the experience in the bottom left part of your screen right about now. Ignar, at least, is very close. I'm expecting Sword Art to be at a similar point here as those minions get cleaned up. Still just barely off that level 6 mark for both of these support champions, and we know how big those ultis are for both in terms of their playmaking.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see if EG wants to contest the next dragon. That's going to be kind of a question for me, if they want to try to keep TSM away from any potential quick soul. As Spica grabbed that first dragon fairly early, could look to grab the second one and really try to rush towards that. Would be a potential Infernal or Cloud soul there. But EG, I think, are a team that can come online fairly quick and could look to fight. They're going to look tight right now.
Impact here on the front line as you've got Svenskeren going for the kill onto Spica, immediately turning around, putting the aggro right back on Hooney. Sorry, sir, you've been voted off the island. 2-0 game for Evil Geniuses.
Another nice move up towards that top side. Svenskeren and Shizuke initially going towards Spica because they knew that Hooney had no flash, had no ulti. He was already a guaranteed kill, so they try to see if they could get more. They cannot, but they turn around, they get a second kill, so well, the island life may not be all it's cracked up to be for Hooney. Impact's chilling on the beach, coconut in hand. He's feeling good, got a second kill of the game here. They even got the flash out of Spica. Hooney's just no way out. You can see that PoE tried to match the roam, but it is way too delayed here, and he would have only had an effect on this play if they had really tried to overdive and chase Spica potentially into the turret. But TSM back up towards this top side, are going to be starting up this Rift Herald. You can see that that EG is actually moving up to potentially answer. Ignar is here.
Okay.
Oh, he's interrupted.
Gets them going for the moves. Ignar with the flash over the wall to stay alive with 300 HP remaining. TSM still have control over the topside river, trying to finish off the Rift Herald. Impact has arrived. TSM has all 5 players here. The entirety of the squad is ready to commit for this objective. Impact still hanging around, goes back in for the Q2, secured by Spica, but the fight is breaking out. Impact wants to disengage here a little bit. Evil Geniuses needs to be mindful of how far they want to go with this fight. Health bar's a little bit in concern. Impact here in the middle, going to be put to sleep, thrown up into the air, never mind, dodging back away here with the flash damage coming down. Spica going out, Svenskeren into the back once more, looking for the damage on the AD carry. We've got Lost taking out Svenskeren. We've got Spica dying too. It is jungler for jungler, 1-for-1. But TSM will take the Herald.
TSM do come out on top, but God, every time I see these kind of plays, why don't you just keep your members bot lane? Just push out the waves. You get as much or more than you do for committing to this play, especially EG, who is going to be late on the play anyway. Definitely could have just stayed bot. And the wave is actually screwed both in bot and top for EG. So the fact that they committed to it, didn't get the Herald, and now are going to lose out on a couple hundred gold because the waves have slow pushed their opponents. I mean, if we can get a shot of this bot lane wave, like, look at all these minions that are now stacked up here for loss, right?
Oh, yeah.
That means that 2 to 3 waves got denied from Deathly because the wave hadn't been fully reset before they went to Herald. So not only do they lose out there, they lose out on the minions. So it is pretty big here for TSM. And I just think that this is something around the world. It's not an NA only thing. This is in all professional leagues. People really over-prioritize the Herald and have just got to do a better job of understanding that you can get just as much, if not more value on many plays from just staying bot and taking a plate or two.
Svenskeren has Deathly and Ignar behind him. They are controlling this bottom side river, or at least trying to, putting down some vision here, clearing out some of the wards from TSM. But TSM is not willing to concede that control so easily. They are the ones who got the first Drake of the game for themselves without a fight. And if they can build up this second one here in a similar fashion, they should be just fine. Hopefully those messages are not true.
It's the previous like one because we were on a delay. So that would have been where they reconnected to fix the visual bug. But the game is going to continue.
Thank you, Mr. Big Brain Isaac. Now I am sure that Sword Art is not disconnected. Earlier I was only 99% sure because he was still walking around. So I figured that there was some sort of bamboozle. But now we know for certain, as Evil Geniuses has their jungler down here in the bottom half of the map too. Jizuke's set up here in the side lane. Sword Art's moving forward just in case they try to do something here, but Lost will be just fine. Spica right behind him. Evil Genius is coming in to make the plays. Rocket jump out. Svenskeren does not overcommit, and EG walks back into the river.
Yeah, it's looking like it's going to be about the dragon here, though. EG have the better setup on it right now. You can see that Huni, while he does have his teleport, if you look at his resources, he's half health, he's almost out of mana, so he would have to base to potentially join this. I think at this point, though, with Spica having gone back to base with the Herald, they will just be giving up this first dragon. They'll just accept that it is going to be tied up there. Huni can use the ultimate to run straight out to top while keeping his teleport. So I like that decision from him. The ultimate is a shorter cooldown than the teleport, of course, and he keeps this ability to be able to answer a cross-map play pretty effectively, which I think is the smart thing to do.
Back here in mid lane, everything is burning to pieces on Summoner's Rift. With the Drake taken for the second time, we will have an Infernal Rift this time around. 1-1 on the Drake scores, as Evil Geniuses did pick up that mountain for themselves, so adding a little bit of extra tankiness to their front line. But Shelly's been summoned up here in the top lane. They summon her just about in time to get 4 out of 5 plates. Good use of Herald there will reward TSM with some extra gold.
Yeah, really nicely done. Getting that off right before it would have not really been worth much. You know, just a couple more seconds, the plates are going to expire. They maybe would have rather have it in a different lane instead of top, but still, getting that gold is going to be pretty important here, keeping Huni relevant in the game. He has his mythic completed, Impact does as well. And you can see a lot of the item completions are starting to come through here. Of course, mid laners will be delayed because they both went for those kind of triple laning item setups, but definitely on the Essence Reaver already, which is gaining a lot of popularity with quite a few champions as a first item.
Stridebreaker on Aatrox feels really good for allowing him to make more plays with the Infernal Chains as well. Yeah. You can see how Impact comboed it right there to try to keep Huni in range the entire time. Huni was still able to barely get out there, walking off to the side, but it will provide more playmaking opportunities as the game moves forward. Impact continues to just control this lane, do whatever he wants. It's very difficult for Huni to fight back in these trades, as you're seeing. Impact has that Q leveled up all the way to 5, which means the cooldown is nice and low, and he can just keep spamming them spells out here in the top lane every time Huni tries to farm.
Really, until Huni gets, you know, Tabby's Bramble, that kind of setup, it's pretty difficult to actually contest the Aatrox at all because his self-healing is just way too high. So Huni's job is not really to fight the champion, it's to fight the minions and just protect the tower, right? You know, that's really what you want to do. You want to limit the advantages that Impact can create, while TSM potentially create advantages on the bottom side while they look to scale up, because they are looking to just play front to back. They are looking to have this beef ball of Alistar as well as Sion sitting in the front line, protecting the Victor, protecting the Tristana, and just allowing those hyper-scaling late-game champions to really dish out the damage and kill off the front line.
Jizuke, again, trying to always grab those electrocute procs. Anytime Power of Evil steps up, the Echo is always ready to answer. Svenskeren here in the bottom lane once more, clearing out the control ward that does have vision of him. You can see in the jungle, despite the fact that both of these champions can clear very quickly, it's Svenskeren who's got the farm lead over his opponent and also who's been involved in a kill. So Svenskeren, the better jungler so far in this game compared to Spica, who has not yet been able to make any big plays or have a true impact on the map. We'll see if that changes here as Ignar's going in for the 2v2. Lost, exhausted, running away. Ulti already used from Deftly with a flash backwards after they see the 2 TPs coming in. Svenskeren is now behind enemy lines, isolated. This is not where the boy wants to be. Turning it right back around with the onslaught of shadows. Lost goes down. Impact goes into the 3-man knockup. TSM is getting cut to pieces, and Evil Genius has made it happen.
Nicely done there from EG. They get 1 kill, but they want to get the tower off of this. You need to get more when you're committing this many members down to the bot lane, and a lot of that really was the result of Lost not buffering his rocket jump properly. He tried to actually W out of the engage there from Ignar, but got snapped back. And in those cases, sometimes you just have to accept that you're going to get hit by the initial play and then use the flash rocket jump afterwards to create enough space. But because he didn't do that, and he actually gets interrupted here, you'll see him getting pulled out of this as Svenskeren is coming around. There it is, stunned out of the air. Lost not able to escape. That was really clean from Ignar, so credit is deserved on his side as well for being able to interrupt that with what looked like the Attract Repel, because Lost just did not have the ability to get through. Svenskeren softens him up. And you can see Jizuke going in with impact to finish it off. TSM had to go into full retreat. They don't get the tower off it, so it is really just that one kill and a little bit of minion pressure. But Jizuke out to that top lane, and that tower is getting very low, so he could potentially finish that one off.
That bottom lane fight looked so scary for Svenskeren there at the start. So far away from the rest of the team, isolated, nearly killed off. After that Tristana E exploded, the man was down to about 100 HP. But it worked out perfectly to set up the kill for the rest of the squad, so I'm going to call that one calculated. I'm going to say that was planned the entire time to bamboozle TSM into a false sense of security, as Evil Geniuses are almost 3,000 gold ahead 18 minutes into this game, with 15 seconds left on the clock before that third Drake spawns. Huni steps forward, bonks Jizuke over the head one time there with a Q. The rest of TSM moving forward here. Jizuke still running away. Next Q will not find the target. TSM at least gets some of the health off of the Evil Geniuses mid laner before this Drake is about to spawn.
But not too much, honestly, because the Honey Fruit was there, and that's actually Huni's ultimate down. So it is a little bit costly for them. You can see Lost trying to group up with the rest of the team, trying to get mid lane prio here to be able to push that out and then get the first move towards the dragon. They won't be able to do it just yet. It is EG who has that first start, and Jizuke actually has gone Night Harvester as opposed to Rocket Belt, so a little bit more of that single target burst potentially, but forgoing some of the utility that the Rocket Belt has, as well as a really strong passive.
Huni just walked right into the pit now. The Drake's going to be taken low. Svenskeren grabbing a kill. Spica into the stasis, staying alive. Sword Art looking to try to provide the pressure onto Deftly with Lost jumping back out. Huni's still stuck in the pit, trying to fight, trying to tank, trying to do whatever he can, but the boy got spanked. Impact's on a rampage. The Aatrox is popping off. Power of Evil at least gets a kill in return onto Ignar. So it's Huni for Ignar is the trade so far, but we've got Svenskeren picking up that objective, and that's the most important thing here for the Evil Geniuses.
Yeah, that's huge for them, and we'll see what they can get done on the back end of this play. Spica barely able to actually escape out, not getting spotted by EG as he was running out, trying to recall behind enemy lines here. Here it is one more time. The dragon is secured. The stopwatch from Spica was pretty big, but they didn't really have a lot of follow-up damage onto Impact and Svenskeren. They were kind of just isolated by themselves against that TSM frontline. Lost not really able to get too involved there as the ultimate coming through from Xayah actually was kind of zoning him out. So pretty nicely fought from EG. Impact is huge at this point and does have the 4 kills, and you can see how much definitely got done. Lost not even getting a single auto attack off in that fight is not what you want to see.
No! Big 0 there for Lost in the last team fight. Deftly and Power of Evil both hitting 2,000. Power of Evil hitting it on the dot. But Tristana with no damage output in a team fight just makes it really, really rough for these things to go well for TSM. They're still about 3,000 gold behind. Evil Geniuses still just trying to maintain this lead as they march forward. Past the 20-minute mark now, so Baron is on the table. If we see a big team fight victory from either side, there is the possibility of being able to go after that. It's TSM with control over the top side river right now, as Deftly is left to just farm up the minions here in the mid lane. TSM still hanging out as a 5-man unit. Jizuke is up here in the top lane by himself, so he'll create some pressure, and TSM's going to have to send somebody to answer.
Yep, Lost going to be heading up there to answer, but Jizuke could push him back, and we'll see if he can actually knock this tower down. Doesn't look like it, but will be able to get it low for now until Lost actually just has to back it up. He used his rocket jump, I do believe, so not feeling confident to actually step forward and challenge at this turret. And EG will be able to grab a tower off of this. They've got to send someone down towards that bot side to collect the waves. It felt like a little bit strange, I think, that TSM was kind of that committed to just playing for Baron Vision. It's not like you were ever going to start up a 5v5 Baron in the face of EG when you are behind. So it seems like a little bit too much of a commitment to playing around that ward. You know, I get that they wanted to try to play for a pick, but at the same time, you do have really good scaling. You do have really straightforward win conditions in the 5v5. So I feel like TSM should be comfortable just kind of sitting in the side lane, soaking up farm. You have double TP available. You don't need to be drawn into those kind of skirmish situations where Jizuke is just getting more in the side lane.
Just got to let it go forward. scale up, allow Tristana to get those extra levels and that extra range, allow Power of Evil to put on some of those MVP-type performances that he's put on in the past on the Victor. TSM will continue to manage to keep this game nice and close enough anyway, but the next Drake will be spawning in under 2 minutes. If Evil Geniuses get that one, they move on to Soul Point, and it creates a massive, unbalanced threat for every Drake moving forward for the rest of the game.
It would be very big for them. You can see that Jizuke also going towards the Lich Bane second, or at least making the pit stop on the Sheen, but that is going to help them take down those towers even more effectively. You know, the E, of course, working on those turrets there too, so Jizuke is going to be a true split push threat, but TSM sitting 3 members up towards top, trying to get something out of Jizuke here, or potentially inspecting some sort of engage to come through and looking for the counterplay. They are going to be spotted, though. A lot of time invested up there from Spica, and eventually Ignar just wards over the wall, spots him out. Feeling like TSM is very drawn towards this Baron area, feeling like they need to maintain control around here.
Well, that top lane tier 1 turret just about has 1 or 2 auto attacks left on it, so if TSM ever get the opportunity, that's some free money that can make this game a little bit closer. 45 seconds until that Drake is about to spawn here, and TSM are rightfully sending players down into the bottom half of the map. Power of Evil going for the recall now, waiting in base for just a little bit of extra gold and healing, now marching back out, and he'll head down to join up with the rest of the team. Jizuke continues his top lane split push, but that's because this guy's got his teleport already ready to go. Huni will be sent up here to answer, make sure that not too many of these minions are being wasted, not too much free pressure being applied to the tier 2. He can teleport down to help the rest of TSM, and now we're going to see how these two squads trade back and forth for this river control.
And Aatrox is going to be a pretty big threat in this fight now. Having the 2 items online with the Sterix this early does make him incredibly tanky, but TSM's carries also have 2 items. Void Staff complete for Power of Evil. It looked like a PD second, I do believe, for Laws, so they're ready to go.
Oh, they're already going in. A big pick. That was about the most important guy you could have found, and they found him when there was no way out. TSM lose their mid laner, and Evil Geniuses win the Drake.
That was really nicely done. The TP coming through, the engage from multiple angles, those are the kind of plays that you want to threaten. And TSM, without their mid laner, can't even threaten any sort of a counterplay. You can't threaten a Baron attempt. So EG will move to Soul Point here, grabbing their second Infernal. And Jizuke, look at that damage, pressing forward. Didn't even actually proc his passive there, just ulted back immediately because he didn't want to get knocked into the turret or anything by Sword Art. So playing that pretty safely. But with the Lich Bane complete, man, all it really takes is an EQ and proc the passive with that auto from the Lich Bane, and you can pretty much 100-0 some of these carries Zeko. It is frightening.
It's so scary, and also as he's getting more and more levels, 1 away from level 16 here for the Echo, the power of that chrono break, once the cooldown's down to 20 seconds or whatever it turns into, allows him to play so aggressively and so just to the style that we expect out of Jizuke as a player. We'll see what Evil Geniuses can get done with that. But Impact is going in, moving forward, immediately trying to fight against Power of Evil, but now the backup has arrived. Huni using the ulti to show up. Skarman is here, turning it right back around with the onslaught of shadows, and Impact rams him through the heart with the sword. Evil Geniuses has backup too. Sword Art rotating down, trying to help Huni to make sure that they don't lose anything else. And now Evil Geniuses are the ones overcommitting. Skarman is stunned up, and revenge has come due. It is Sword Art grabbing the kill, making this one 1-for-1.
But look at Jizuke up in the top lane. That's the untold story. Yes, it is the 1-for-1, but that's a play that TSM was looking for. And this is going to be a full tower going down because of that Lich Bane, because of the ability to use the E on the turrets. He is just getting things done. Every time it feels like TSM is looking for a play, Jizuke is out on that side lane, punishing them for that, and that is exactly what you want to see from this player down here in the bot lane. Impact flashing the ultimate, making this go long, retreating back to his jungler because he didn't have his ultimate available, but as it comes back up, the Steric procs, look at that ridiculous self-healing. He was at like 20%, just immediately back up to 80, but then the cavalry has arrived. Then there's no TP on Jizuke, so they're never going to fully commit to that play. And with everyone from TSM coming down, EG just had to back it up and accept that kill was going to go the other way.
And this is Stridebreaker Aatrox. Remember, that wasn't a gore drinker, cheese heal, or anything like that. That's just what this champion does. So they've really got to respect Impact on this moving forward. Sword Art forced to flash away. Very important cooldown there from an Alistar in terms of playmaking.
Yeah, that is massive. And like you said, man, that's Aatrox. You get that passive auto with your ultimate up, you just give him a little poke with the sword, heal for about 600, and that's going to be even harder to deal with now that the full Spirit Visage is actually bought off of that. He didn't even have components, so Impact had been out on the map for a while.
So long. And
is going to be healing even more. It's also going to be very effective against both the Lilia as well as the Victor, of course. But, you know, it's going to be a lot of the pressure now on Lost to really get damage out in these fights. We saw that one fight around Dragon. He got nothing done. You got to be able to get that damage out. But there's a lot of threats on EG, and that makes his life difficult because, you know, it's easy to sit there and say, hey, you got to be attacking, you got to be getting in there. But if Jizuke E flashes on you and you instantly die, well, you're not going to do much damage there either.
You got in there, but then you got right back out. Yeah. All right, Evil Geniuses. They've still got themselves 5,000 lead. 1.5 minutes. You're talking about pressure, Azael. Well, the pressure is on because TSM now have to answer every Drake after this point, or Evil Geniuses gets an Infernal Soul. And when these guys already have this kind of a lead, and then you add that extra sort of pseudo-Luden's Echo proc onto everyone on the team, including that Echo that's diving into 100-0 things go from bad to really, really bad.
It gets really brutal, and Impact here trying to set up a flank, but TSM does spot him and will push him back. And this is the thing, when you have a 3-to-1 Dragon advantage, your opponents are drawn to it. They have to fight, like you say, or you give up that Infernal Soul. But if you send all 5 members from TSM down towards that Dragon, EG might just say, okay, yeah, sure, have the second Dragon. I'll take your inhibitor top lane, right? And that is a horrible trade for TSM, but that is a situation you get put in due to early game Dragon control. That is why it's so important to not allow your opponents to get to that soul point, because that is where you've got to fight every single one, and the rewards for doing it are pretty darn small.
25 seconds on that Drake spawn. We've got Power of Evil teleporting into the mid lane. Level 15 on him. Level 16 is active for Jizuke. So remember that about the Chrono Break cooldown that this guy is able to use here in these fights. Sword Art will walk towards that brush, but because the sweeper was active, he could see Impact's silhouette. He doesn't continue walking forward, doesn't get hit up by any of that Q damage. Evil Geniuses maintain control over the bottom side river with one player for either side here in the top lane. Bowling Ball rolls right down the middle into the gutter, and Evil Geniuses don't take any damage from the poke.
TP.
Teleport's already coming in from both sides. It's Huni and Jizuke both joining up in the fight. Impact looking to keep Spica away. He knows that the Drake is going to be the target here for the TSM jungler. Bowling Ball again, not going to find the mark. Jizuke looking for the parallel conversion. Spica wanted to go forward, but he can't find the angle. Spica's going to die. Jizuke with the kill. They weren't even able to get the stasis off of the jungler with lost by the damage down to Ignar, but Evil Geniuses coming right back in for the rest of TSM. Lost gets 1 kill, but it's a 2-for-1 plus an Infernal Soul. Jizuke goes in and right back out. You got to be careful about the Scion dead body. But it's a big win for Evil Geniuses yet again. 2-for-1, and Soul is confirmed.
Really nicely done there, getting the pick onto Spica. TSM just had poor positioning around that. They were all choked back into this funnel, and yes, Huni is pushing forward towards the pit, trying to create space for his carries to walk in. But when you retreat up towards that blue buff, you are now trying to funnel through a potential Hecarim engage, a Rel engage, the parallel convergence from Echo, and that's just not something you can really do. And as a result, as Spica tries to get it done, he gets zeroed out. The rest of the carries get pushed back. EG secures Soul and even get that bot lane tower off the back of it. So here it is one more time. This is where I was thinking, oh no, you are setting up for that Rel engage. Sword Art sees it, so he engages on the Rel to try to create an opening for them to move through. But Jizuke and Impact then are unmarked. As Spica walks forward, he just gets absolutely burst down. And yes, Ignar will get killed off in the back end of that fight. It's not the trade you want as TSM, and they are falling so far behind. EG has been on point in these fights, finding the engages, finding the angles to corral TSM into difficult situations where their carries just can't get the damage out.
We're talking about carries doing damage. It's Jizuke forcing out that stasis from Spica yet again. This time he at least survived long enough to press the button, but they still have to deal with the fact that Evil Geniuses has total control over the map, over the game, over the situations that they put themselves into. TSM stay grouped up as a 5-man unit, while Evil Geniuses are almost always apart, applying pressure to different places at different times.
Yeah, and when they group now, you have the Infernal Soul proc on top of Night Harvester proc, and it's going to be coming from multiple members, right? You're the Tristana, you're the Victor. All of a sudden, Rel, Hecarim, Aatrox, Echo, everyone flying back in is going to proc the Infernal Soul on you. That's hundreds of extra damage in these fights. That is going to make it incredibly hard to survive when you realize that Jizuke with the Death Cap and 3 items, the Lich Bane, plus all the bonus AP from the Infernals, he alone can 100-0 these carries. So any additional damage that is coming through makes it nearly impossible for them to survive. But it's really tough, because if you go back and you say, all right, well, I'm going to build a GA then, or all right, I'm going to go really defensive, then you really sacrifice any chance you have at the comeback, because you don't have the damage potential to really push through and get these kills yourself.
Well, big item just got purchased. Lost does have the Infinity Edge now completed. Kraken Slayer, Phantom Dancer, Infinity Edge is pretty much the staple Tristana build for 3 items these days.
Yeah.
It gives him a ton of firepower here in the team fights. But again, the problem he faces, surviving long enough to get those auto attacks off. Even though Tristana does have that incredible attack speed steroid on the Q, staying alive for even a moment is difficult in the face of a 7-0 Aatrox and an Echo with a Rabadon's Death Cap and an Infernal Soul. Impact with some damage over the wall, keeping Spica away. Lost and Sword Art off to the side with Spin scaring, getting hit with the charge. It's now impacted to the back, looking for the damage onto Lost with the Onslaught of Shadows coming through, the exhaust going down and Lost going out. It's definitely taking the kill and TSM taking the L. Sword Art's the next one to fall. Jizuke's fighting off 2 players on his own, not even having to get himself in a bad enough spot to die. He stays alive with a chrono break. The man is making the plays, and Evil Geniuses will find 3 for nothing. They're right back onto the Baron now, and they have outplayed TSM at every point.
That is so big for EG. As you said, Jizuke was in that 1v2 against Power Evil and Spica the entire time and is able to absorb that pressure, not go down. As a result, the 4v3 on the other side was always going to go the way of EG. They're able to come out big in that fight. They secure the Baron. They have the Soul, 10,000 gold advantage. And it feels like this game is pretty much all but wrapped up. And you can see it again, Jizuke on the bottom side, Spica and Power of Evil both going towards him, committing the ultimate as well there from Spica. But on the top side, definitely is untouched throughout this fight. Impact cannot be knocked down. You don't have enough damage there to actually punch through all of that self-healing that Impact was going to be doing, because he even has a lot of armor on top at this point. And EG have a pretty significant front line when you're realizing Hecarim is stacking the armor. There's a full Thornmail, plus additional armor on top for Impact. There's almost a full Thornmail as well on Ignar. So yes, Lost is on 3 items, but he needs a Lord Dominix really badly. He needs Lifesteal really badly. He needs MR really badly. Like, you just get to this point where you feel like you need everything and there's not enough gold to buy it.
Holy cow, man. What a showing from Evil Geniuses up against TSM. Today may very well just be the day of upsets, Azael. CLG defeating Cloud9 in the first game of the day. TSM now 11,000. I'm sorry, I lowballed it. 11,000 gold behind Evil Geniuses here in this game.
Yeah, they are getting really stomped at this point. So far ahead for EG. TSM have got a hold for a really long time, hoping they can slow this game down. But Huni now in some trouble, will be forced to use the ulti and retreat. Power of Evil showing up though, and we'll see. If TSM could get a pick in the side lane, that's a way you can slow down the game and potentially farm it out to a point where you can compete.
Both junglers sitting on a 0-2 kill death spread, but it's been Scarin who's been a part of 2/3 of the kills here for the side of Evil Geniuses with the 8 assists here on that tanky Hecarim that you were talking about. And I guess that's another one of the nice parts about this tanky style of build. You don't feel as bad when you don't have any of the kills and you're just a bunch of assists like this. You're still relevant. You're still able to jump in, soak damage on the front line, and do whatever needs to be done. And now with complete control over the entirety of Summoner's Rift and Elder Drake having spawned, Evil Geniuses are walking down there to take it, but TSM are not going to simply allow this to happen. Definitely in Spin Scarin, taking the Drake down to about half. Impact going over the wall here with a Blast Cone. Elder Drake at about 2,000 HP. It's going to be secured by the blue team here. Now the damage is already coming out with Impact grabbing the kill here into the back line. The AoE is done. The team fight is over. TSM is all done and dusted, baby. It's Evil Geniuses start to finish in this game.
Where did they go? EG with the wombo combo erasing TSM. They're going to close this one out. Huni may secure the Krugs, but EG going to trade for the Nexus.
Holy cow, Evil Geniuses taken down TSM very cleanly here in this game. 36 minutes in, Nexus turret's got no chance staying alive. Huni respawns only to watch the fireworks that used to be his Nexus. Stop padding the stats. I'm trying to do a dramatic game-ending call. He's a Scion and a Fountain. You ain't gonna kill him. Evil Geniuses, though, they'll take down TSM.
Nicely done. And man, even that last fight was actually so sick. Impact had such a huge game here. That little bit of poke damage onto Lost, you know, getting that position where he knows he's safe, he has the E to go over the wall, so he's camping in the brush. He forces out the rocket jump from Lost, and then as Lost is approaching that tri-brush again, Jizuke comes from the right side through lane, Impact goes back over the wall, pops the LT to engage, and there's no rocket jump anymore. So this little bit of poke damage that he got removed the only ability that Lost actually had to potentially escape from this fight. And it's a small thing, but it's one of those small things that can go unnoticed and can completely change a game, completely change a team fight. That is what you get when you have Impact on your team. He is full of these smart little plays. 8-0 and 8, I believe, was the finishing score for him on this game. Was monstrously strong. EG played their style. And this is one of those games where you watch from EG and you get excited about the team. You know, you can understand why they can take down top teams when they are really playing their style, when they are really playing unleashed, and they've got to be able to do that with consistency because damn do they look good.
And that's what we were talking about at the start of this matchup. How it was important. If TSM wanted to be first, hey, it's in your hands. If Evil Geniuses want to maintain their spot at 6th or go even higher, but just at least make sure they're in the playoffs, it's in their hands. This Evil Geniuses looks like a playoff team. That team right there looks like a team that you would be saying, how in the world would they miss playoffs? But that consistency that we need to see is the key. I think you hit the nail on the head. And if Evil Geniuses can take whatever secret sauce was behind this game and apply that to all games moving forward, they will be a
just need more sauce.
Reckoned with. Just need some more sauce. But right now, we're going to take some more breaks. And after the break, we will hear from Impact in the Verizon post-game interview. Don't go anywhere.
Welcome back to the LCS for yet another Verizon post-game interview. We have EG's very own Impact, and I mean, that sure looked like you were having a good time that game. What is it like for you getting to play this early top lead Aatrox?
It's too obvious I'm getting hit because I'm blind to pick Aatrox, but their answer is Sion. So I was thinking, I think I'm gonna win lane actually because they last pick and pick Sion. So I was thinking, oh yeah, I should win. And that's why I'm talking about. That's why I asked to my GGK, mid runner, help me to getting hit more. So that's why we try dive. Kinda like mess up. First dive was mess up, but we got it. So I get hit. Yeah, that's why I think we are winning situation. Yeah, we are in the winning situation.
I think others have some questions about that blind pick as well. I'm excited to hear eventually the analyst desk breaking it down. But you actually ended up getting player of the game for this game. Last time I spoke to you, you also got player of the game after that Gnar where you were getting dive after dive and you were so surprised. So how do you feel about getting that honor this time around?
I mean, this game, I was respected. I will gonna get MVP because. Too obvious. I 808, so also, but another game I was inting for like 20 minutes and suspect some team fight. That's why I think no way I got MVP, but I got it, so that's different,
We call it absorbing pressure, and it's always fun for us to get to watch in the audience. This was a very fun game for EG fans to watch because you did look very clean as a squad compared to last week. Why do you think that was?
To me, like easy game because they play they cannot play to side lane, so we can just push side and moving all time. So that's why game looks easy because we cannot make mistake easily because we always have a number advantage. So that's why it looks like easy.
And I know for the next games, you're also looking to minimize mistakes. Things are so close in the standings right now for EG. You've got Team Liquid coming up next with Alphari. You've got Finn to follow with CLG. How are you feeling going into those two matches?
They're both doing well. Also, especially Shaji, I think they're doing well now, team stuff wise. So, I don't know. Let's see, but I think my job is gonna win against Alphari and Finn 1v1. Then I think we can win against them.
All right. Well, we're looking forward to seeing that 1v1 action Impact. Thank you so much for stopping by.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
What a win for EG here today. We're going to continue speaking about this on the State Farm Analyst Desk.
Thank you very much, Le Tigers. A crushing victory for EG over TSM here, moving all of my analysts to a solid 0 for 2 on the day in predictions. But I actually want to start where the first question of the interview went, and we saw a bit of it in Impact's face in answering the question. But Kadril, an Aatrox picked on one side and a Sion counter pick on the other as the response. I'm so sorry. I'm going to jump in here, Kadril, because I'm receiving word that your audio is not going out the program. So although we are hearing all of the brilliance spewing out of your mouth right now.
I guess without the marshmallows, if you need me to interpret again, I guess I will.
I think that was on my side. I think it worked.
All right, one more try.
Okay, he's back. He's back.
Okay, let me try that again. Sorry about that. Yeah, so they last picked Sion into Aatrox, which is actually a losing matchup for Aatrox, for Sion, like Impact said. And they get numbers advantage on side because the Aatrox can push into Sion, can always collapse first. And this matchup just gets progressively worse as the game progresses. Sion never really catches a break. It just gets worse and worse and worse. Aatrox ahead. I think the last pick Sion makes sense in TSM's defense because they need some frontline, some zone control with the Victor, with the Tristana. So in that case, it does make sense. But I think that picking something like perhaps a Wukong or a Gangplank could have helped the team comp a lot more. Yes, you don't have as much frontline, but it gives you more zone control. And when you're facing a 1-3-1 comp and you have no one who can match on the side lane, then it's really, really hard. I mean, you saw TSM running around the map, putting their bot lane into Echo, trying to find picks to actually get some kind of advantage to unlock the map, because once they pushed in sides, it's so hard to contest any team fight because you're either down numbers or you're always you're always late to the objective and you always get engaged on first, you get picked off. So yeah, TSM's draft wasn't a huge fan of it, especially when you're blind picking Victor, you're counter picking top, and especially the first pick of Hecarim from Evil Geniuses to the nice pick as Hecarim, which has been really successful.
So already a favored matchup for Aatrox, Lauren, but we heard Impact talking about the communication within game, saying quickly to Jizuke, get up here, help snowball my lane. Let's turn this into a complete steamroll.
Yeah, when you're playing Sion into Aatrox, you basically have no chance to ever push back a lane because Aatrox will constantly interrupt your queues with his. And in this game, the draft went that so there were 3 pushing lanes for Evil Geniuses, meaning that Jizuke has all the freedom in the world to move top whenever he wanted. So all Impact has to do is just slowly whittle down Huni, and they operate this dive really well. They go in first, get his flash, wait for the cooldowns to come back, and re-dive again for a free first blood. And from then on, it's basically impossible for Huni to do the rest of this game. He was almost worthless this entire game because of how good the side lane was for Impact.
Yeah, it was a really rough situation because it's like, okay, you're getting pushed in all 3 lanes, you're falling a little bit behind, but then also your team fights are not necessarily any better either. It's not like, they had to trade this off on EG's side to get early game advantages. Like, they still had a really gnarly dive comp where they have multiple people who can jump in and try and find these fights. And this is one where they didn't quite execute it correctly. They spent a little bit too much time on Huni instead of following the Ignar engage onto the back line. But, even in that situation, it's a pretty much a 1-for-1 that ends up relatively even. And when you see them execute their fights correctly, it's just like, what is this Victor going to do when he's getting TP flanked from all these different angles? You have people who can set up the fights, as well as the fact that you're getting split pushed down while this is happening. So you're really forced into a just total losing situation where you have to contest the dragon because otherwise it's going to be gone for free. But if you do walk up, you get TP'd on it and flanked really hard.
Yeah, and you saw that in this fight, especially Jizuke TPs on the mid wave, shoves it in. And now the problem is TSM have to go into a choke point to contest the Drake, and against an Echo W against the Aatrox, it's just so difficult to actually find a way to break the team fight open and actually start moving forwards and pushing them out, because you're in this small choke, this small zone where you can't really find your carries to get hits off. And I mean, if you just look at the draft overall, I think TSM's obvious win condition was their bot lane, right? You pick the Tristana into the Xayah, so you want to jump in with the Alistar, and the Sion is weak side. So that's their win condition, but they can never really play into bot. And this is the thing what I was mentioning in the draft. They have to try and make picks to actually unlock the map so they can start pushing out waves. Mid tier 1 still up, bot tier 1 still up. They only have 1 tower in the whole game, so they go for the side lane play. And now the fact this side lane play does go 1-for-1 in the end is all good and dandy, but the problem is, I think if EG reacted even faster and was pushing mid here, you see definitely on the screen, if him and Ignar are pushing in mid and hitting the mid tier 1, and then you've got Jizuke up in top, no matter what fight you take on any side of the map, whether it's a number advantage in the fight itself or a number advantage on the map, you're always losing out to the 1-3-1 because they're always able to respond faster than you are, and you're always trying to find proactive plays when the 1-3-1 can also be proactive and reactive.
I think in theory that TSM's comp is actually not bad if they were playing against another team that is really committed to this 5v5 type of style we see so much in NA, where we just group all 5 mid and fight in a ball. But EG with Jizuke have had so much practice because he likes Echo and Ryze so much that their 1-3-1 is probably the most practiced in the entire region. And when they get ahead like that and TSM still try to do those 5v5 team fights, Impact and Jizuke are experts on getting behind the enemy line, especially Impact this game, where he can consistently find flanks, and the team fights are doomed from the very start because they have those flanks and are already behind.
Yeah, as was mentioned in the interview, and here again, Impact receiving player of the game for this one, 808 Deathless, 100% kill participation. Mark Z, I love that he also referenced the last time he got player of the game for the Ultra Death Gnar, and maybe feeling like he deserves this one a little bit more, but to me, that just paints so much a greater picture of the kind of player that Impact is.
Yeah, I think he's been incredible this split, and I think you saw him at the top of everyone's power rankings basically for a reason. He's been a lot better kind of on that strong side as well, like this Aatrox game. Being able to just dominate Huni in the lane and then call resources to him is like kind of the new angle that I think he wanted to show this split, and it's been super impressive, and he's still a beast on Shen and the other weak side type champions.
Yeah, definitely popping off on the top side. And you have to question what TSM's real win condition was. I mean, we said it was the bot lane, but the problem that the TSM's bot lane faced was the fact that they actually didn't have any resources to work with. They didn't really have too much vision, so they could never jump in. And if you remember, the one time they actually jumped in and went aggressive, where definitely flash away, double TPs came in, triple TPs. Shizuka is already moving down to bot. So the only real window TSM had in their bot lane to go aggressive and try and find advantage, the whole squad just appeared out of nowhere and they couldn't really do anything. So I think TSM needed to put more resource into bot. Yes, you had mid pushed in. Yes, you had top pushed in. But maybe Spica playing towards bot side, trying to bring Alistar into mid to free up the power of Evil on the Victor so he can actually start impacting the map. Try and get some vision on the bot side. They did it once or twice, but they never really found enough to actually start pushing advantage in bot side while Huni was getting dove.
And I think a big part of why they couldn't do that was because TSM's bot lane, while I think they actually could have gotten priority, the one lane in TSM's comp that could get priority was Tristana because she has such strong pushing power. They showed up late to the bot lane because they were doing something around red buff. I'm not sure what their plan was. Maybe they were going to look for a late invade, but because they got there late, they ended up having the lane shoved toward them, which means Spica has pretty much nothing to do this game. They can't contest either scuttle. They got double scuttled by the Hecarim. And let's say they had the priority, there is a pretty good chance that they can do that kind of all in with the Tristana and the Lilia. And so if they had that opportunity, I think they could have maybe played around that one win condition.
Yeah, and I think like you said, Aaron, when they walked into the red side jungle, I think the one thing they were looking at, because they're only 80 carry support, is I think they were betting, my guess is that Hecarim would start on Raptors, and then maybe they could flash him and kill him level 1 because he can't escape. That's the only guess I have for that little invade that they had going on there. But like you said, they got late to lane, they got pushed in. They eventually did get some kind of push in the bot side, which is what they needed. They moved to Herald, they were there first, but the fights never went in their favor. They couldn't find the engages, and once they got into the 1-3-1, there was just no answer for TSM.
Yeah, I think Shizuke is probably one of the best 1-3-1 mid laners in the league right now in North America. He's been great at it his entire career. He still gets too hyphy sometimes, but at least in terms of actually applying pressure, that's actually something that a lot of people in the 1-3-1 fail to do properly. Is like, okay, I have...
Get hyphy?
Well, no, like actually take turrets and take objectives and put real tangible pressure onto the map, because a lot of people will get ahead and they'll have the push, but they won't actually really threaten you and make you kind of pull you apart. And I think that's one thing Shizuke does really well. And like I said, sometimes it's a little too hard, but like that is something I do appreciate when you do play the 1-3-1 is actually making them have to come and react to you and then getting something on the flip side when that happens.
I was going to say, Mark, I'm not going to fight you if you're advocating for more hyphy plays in the LCS. But I do also want to take a step back here for a moment and talk about the TSM side of things, agnostic of the game itself, though, and kind of back towards the draft, because this, to me, keys into kind of a split-long storyline that we've been tracking. It feels like week to week, our opinions of their drafting fluctuates wildly. Sometimes the determination as we come out of it, what the heck happened? It was purely won or lost, in the draft. And so, Kadril, I don't know if from your perspective, out across the pond, have you keyed into anything maybe we haven't?
So I think the biggest thing I noticed about TSM that make them very different from teams like C9. So for example, let's take C9, for example. They win their lane so hard to the point where they get advantages individually. Perks, Sven, they push their advantages, they have high CSDs. Whereas TSM is a team where I feel like most of the games you watch, they don't get their advantages individually. They lose lane a little bit to the point where they're down in CS or a little bit down in gold, a little bit down in jungle farm as well. But then when they group up, they start to make team fights happen. They start to win the fights, executed them properly, good setup and good mechanics. Now, I think that EG in a way exposed them by playing this 1-3-1 comp, because TSM like to play clumped up and they like to find team fights from my point of view. And I think the 1-3-1 kind of exposed them to the points where they seemed a bit confused all over the map. Huni's ulting in bot to try and help PoE to get impact. They're losing out top side. It felt like they were a bit all over the place against their 1-3-1 comp. Maybe it's something they haven't faced too much in scrims, or it's just a playstyle that does actually naturally counter a teamfight composition or a teamfight team. So I really think that EG kind of exposed them in a sense, but TSM have to find more playstyles. I think that they rely too much on grouping up and finding fights and forcing objectives, which I think is a good playstyle, especially when you've got a player like Sword Art, the experience coming in. But yeah, pushing lane advantage is definitely something you need to do if you're drafting a weak side top and a Tristana lane.
I think the other thing too is, even to your own kind of rel diff from earlier in the day, they also didn't seem to have much priority on it. The fact that they gave it up, didn't take it on the 1-2 on red side. Like, these are some things where you're like, okay, I guess they don't prioritize rel anymore, or they were experimenting. I don't know why they just let them grab the Hecarim first and the rel in the 2-3 spot.
Yeah, just a few questions I have coming off of that game. Either way, Evil Geniuses, a big victory, especially considering they were the team on the bubble of the playoff picture. This is going to help them in terms of separating from Immortals. That's going to do it for us here. Game 3 is coming up after this short break. We'll see you back here.
Yes, I wiped up a mess.
Yeah, you
Where is the bot? Never mind, I found it!
When game day is a go, there's a Bud Light there.